All right, let's go ahead and get started. As we get started, I just want to kind of introduce myself. My name is Hallie, and I'm a member of the customer success team here at Reviewr. So, as we kind of go through this webinar, I'm just going to be going through kind of my perspective and understanding of our clients and our admin at Reviewr right now. Um, Kind of understanding what their struggles, what their issues, why they're going from one platform to the next, and kind of seeing what they're looking for and what they're missing in their grant programs. So that's kind of my insider perspective of understanding what other admin like you all are experiencing within their grant programs right now, and then how we can kind of combat those issues. So to go ahead and just kind of jump right in, today we will be talking about the 3 mistakes that are secretly sabotaging your grant making program. So as we go through the webinar, we'll kind of just be talking about those 3 points, things around that are just kind of taking away from your guys' grant program. Just for a little bit of insight on Reviewr, in case you aren't familiar, we are an application management software. So any kind of application process that you're running, whether that's grants, awards, scholarships, fellowships, call to entries, call to speakers, anything where you're having people come in and apply, it can be ran through Reviewr. So maybe you're not just running grant programs, but running others. It's a great place to really centralize all of your events that you might be running. So just kind of a little bit of background as we get started. Just so you know, the chat is open throughout the entire webinar. So if you have questions on something, something comes to mind as I'm going through anything, feel free to come through the chat. I'll go ahead and answer, just so you don't forget about any of those questions. So happy to stop anywhere, and help you guys out where is needed. But with that being said, we will go ahead and get started. So first thing we're kind of going to touch on is the fact that we want our grant programs to be built for the entire life cycle and not just for one specific part. So diving into that a little bit, first is that we just overall want end-to-end grant management. So from your screening and your proposals all the way to your impact reports and your final reports, no matter kind of what stage you're in, we want it to be all be kind of streamlined and ran together, organized, and not just kind of thrown together at different phases. Second thing is going to be a fair and structured review. This is going to be something big that we talk about today. Arguably, one of the most important parts of your grant or your application process is going to be deciding who's receiving those grants, who is the winner of your event. And so making sure that we do that in a fair way, we have some structure to it, not just throwing something together, but actually planning and having more intentions around kind of what we're doing with that. Built for grant makers. So this is going to be built for your officers, your foundation staff, whoever is running this. It's going to be built for easy use for you. We understand that this is probably not your main job. You're probably running this a couple months out of the year. And so making sure that it's the most intuitive and best process for you is really important. And then last thing is impact that's easy to prove. So we want to make sure that as you all are putting all this time and effort into running these events, that you have something that you can prove with that. You have something to kind of show what you are working towards, and you can have something to present to people, um, kind of showing what your grants are providing. So just a couple things to kind of go through, to let you know that you're in the right place being on this webinar. First thing, if you're running a community foundation grant lifecycle throughout your community, organization, that kind of thing, if you're doing multiple fund types, different donors, you're in the right place. Private and family foundation, so maybe a little bit different kind of foundation, maybe a little bit smaller scale, but still a lot of work goes into it. And then we can go larger scale to corporate foundations. So maybe your organization, your company, a lot more applications, a lot more spread out. Again, all kind of runs together where you want that to be a good process no matter the size of your grant program. If you're in a nonprofit or association, this is another great way to kind of integrate some more technology, have things be more efficient, more intuitive, make it overall a better process for whoever's running that. If you're just looking for better tools, you have been running your grant program or other program for years, and you are just realizing that it's outdated, it's not efficient, it's just not a very good process for you. And then last thing is scaling your program. Again, if you've been doing this for a while, or maybe this is your first year taking over, you want to see growth. You want to see that you're making improvements, making strides to be a better grant program, not only for your organization, for your company, whoever you're running it for, but also for the grantees, making sure that we are always working towards being better and giving them better opportunities. And then last kind of thing before we really dive into that first topic, is that a lot of you are probably running your grant programs at what is seemingly cost-free. But when you really break it down, it is not cost-free. Number one thing is that you as admin, where this more than likely is not your main job, you are having to go through all of the submissions, make sure that they're eligible, make sure that they're even a good fit for your program. Just a lot of extra time that should be already automated into your program. Shouldn't be something additional that you have to do on top of all of your other admin activities. Second thing is you have to manage a review committee with no structure. You're just kind of letting them have a free-for-all. There's no rubric, there's no rules, just giving them out random submissions, judging, and kind of going from there. Which might seem like an easy option, but it actually ends up being a lot of work for you, and that's not fair to your reviewers or your grantees when we just kind of throw things at them. And then last thing is having to follow up and chase those grantees for your follow-ups, for your impact reports, that kind of thing. Always trying to look for something, get that last thing submitted in time, get it through your email, look through your spam, all those extra steps that you really shouldn't have to take. It should already be automated. Understanding kind of where your place is as an admin and things that you should be having to do that's normal and things that should be automated and be an easier process for you. So the three main things that we are going to be talking about, and I'll show you and walk you through. First thing is going to be eligibility and proposal fit matching. Making sure that we put eligibility into our applications and then use that to match the best grants that best fit them. Second is going to be for your reviewers, their committee, you're trying to get past any fatigue, any bad experience that you are presenting them with. Just because more than likely these are your volunteers coming in, donating their time to judge your grant application. So we've got to better that process for them. And then the last thing is that you have no way of showing your impact reports. You don't have your grantees logging back in. If you do, you're probably not getting half of your reports as expected. So kind of understanding that post-award management and how we can go about that. So it's a great process for you as an admin, but then also for those grantees as well. All right. And then the first thing that we're going to dive into is the eligibility screening and proposal fit matching. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the problem and the fix. It's really important that organizations can submit full proposals that are only eligible and are actually good fits, not necessarily just anyone who finds a link to your application. So just kind of going into first, what happens when we don't have eligibility screening? First thing is that you're just going to have a bunch of random people applying that have nothing to do with your organization, your goals, your mission. Overall, they just aren't going to be a good fit for what you're going for. They're just going in and applying for a grant because they found it. With that, they're not eligible. So maybe people are involved in your organization, involved in a way that they should be applying, but they're not eligible. That's a waste of their time and that's a waste of your time. So for those who maybe are applying that aren't eligible and they don't realize that, that's frustrating for them. And then that's also frustrating for you because that's an extra submission that you have to go through, double check, just kind of have eyes on. Second thing that kind of goes with that is that when we have submissions in your portal that are not eligible or do not fit your goals, then your reviewers are going to end up wasting their time looking at the submissions, scoring them, putting their time towards evaluating whether they should deserve a grant that they're not even eligible for. So now you've wasted the applicant's time, your time as an admin, maybe you've missed it, and then also the reviewer's time. And so overall, it's really just a time eater that you can't afford when you're running a process like this. Third thing is going to be ineligible proposals dilute the pool, and then they're going to skew the comparative scores. And so if we do have a bunch of these uneligible applications in your queue, the judges score them, that's automatically going to skew any weighted averages, just average scoring. It's going to mess with all of your numbers. And so making sure, again, we don't waste our time on those applications, but then we don't let that affect kind of your impact report and the things that you want to follow up on from year to year, and just to kind of see how applicants are being scored. Next thing is that your programs are going to manually audit eligibility after the fact. That's probably what a lot of you guys are doing right now, which is just not a great process, not efficient, not a great way to kind of go about that. Last thing is that your qualified applicants are going to compete against a pool that includes organizations that are never viable. And so you have these really good applications going up against other applicants that aren't even in the same kind of area of the applicants that are. They're not eligible, they shouldn't be compared at all. And then it's just kind of that false narrative going on for your judges. It ends up being really confusing because at some point you're going to catch that they're not eligible, and then you have a whole nother mess on your hands. So to kind of combat some of those issues, define your eligibility criteria. Before you run your grant program, figure out what's important, how are these applicants going to be eligible, and then how do we focus this grant towards an application that's going to be directed towards our goals, towards our missions. Making sure that we're collecting the applications that we want to collect, and making sure that we have a lot more intention behind this application and we're not just running it to run it. Second thing is going to be screening filters. So applicants are going to be going through that eligibility, that screening before they actually submit a full proposal, so that they can ensure that they know that they're eligible and that they're given that fair chance. And then for you, you're going to be able to tell clearly if an applicant is eligible or ineligible right out the way. Next thing is that your ineligible submissions, they're going to be screened out with clear communications. They're going to know with certainty that they are ineligible. Please apply again when you are eligible. This is why you're not eligible. Just making sure that we have that clear communication and everyone is on the same page of where they're at in that process. With that, your actual qualified applicants are going to have a better opportunity and they're going to be matched to the programs that work best for them. Making sure that we match them up with, again, matching best with your goals, your missions, your alignment, keeping everything kind of on that same page. With that, with all of that, kind of combating the issues of the mistaken applications, the ineligible grantees, that gives your committee, your review committee, a really great opportunity to sit down and give their best effort towards evaluating submissions that truly need to be evaluated. Giving them kind of that faith that they're going to be going through and evaluating the quality submissions that could end up receiving your grant. So with that, I just kind of want to show you what that application process looks like. One thing that I didn't mention, but is really important, is that every submitter on Reviewr is going to create an account. And the benefit to this is that from year to year, they're going to be able to go and see past submissions. Everything will be in one place, which is a really great experience for them, especially if in the same life cycle, they're applying for multiple grants, multiple scholarships, that kind of thing. Everything is in one place and they have that really great visibility. Second thing, for more specific to your event, is that with account creation, they're able to log in, log out, save and log out, stop in the middle. They're able to save their progress as they please. When you don't do account creation, they're not able to log in, log out, and save progress. They have to sit down at a full time and submit it all in one go, which numbers are showing us that that's a lesser chance of people going in and actually submitting in one go. And then if they can't save their progress and log out and come back and pick up right where they left off, they're not going to come back in and complete it. So account creation is really important. This is just kind of a preview of what your form can look like, different text questions, however you want to kind of set that up. There's that save and log out button that they have access to. Just kind of moving forward. So this is what that eligibility is going to look like. Questions that are specific to maybe you're running multiple grants. So how do you become eligible versus ineligible for specific grants? Or maybe it's for any grants that you are hosting overall. However you want to set your eligibility up is a great way to run that. Any is better than none. And so this is just kind of an example of what that can look like. A lot of flexibility there, though. If they weren't eligible, if they answered those questions the wrong way, they'd be taken to a page saying, you are ineligible. This is why. Please exit the form. And they're going to be flagged, and you're going to be able to tell that they're ineligible and not going to be able to continue their application. Just kind of moving through that form a little bit more, just so you guys can kind of get a view of what this looks like. And yeah, that's kind of what that application process looks like for submitters. There's, again, a lot of flexibility in how you set up your submission form, but really important that they have that save and log out feature. Secure files is another really big one. We see a lot of people coming into Reviewr where their past application is just a PDF and emails, and that's how people are applying. Which when it comes to grants and you are putting sensitive information in those documents, such as tax information, bank information, social security, anything along those lines is super important that you're protecting those applicants, protecting their data, putting somewhere secure where not anyone can have access to it in a click of a button. All right, moving to our mistake number two, which is having an unstructured evaluation process, making a not very great experience for those reviewers, those judges who are more than likely volunteers. Really important when it comes to running, honestly, any application-based event is that you have a good rep for yourself. Your judges, your applicants, your winners, everyone who is involved has positive things to say about you is really important, especially your volunteers. And so making sure that we have a good process for them and they continue to come back and donate their time is really important. So, kind of going through some of the issues that we're seeing that is costing your program a lot of money that you maybe aren't realizing. Number one is that you are manually assigning your judges to their submissions that they are reviewing. This is not a great process because A, regardless of how you want to say it or not, it's human nature, there is bias involved. If you know people, if you don't, there's going to be some kind of bias with how that review process is set up, which isn't fair to that applicant. Also, that's really time consuming for you as an admin to have to manually go through and assign reviewers to submissions or vice versa. With that, you have no blind review. So organization names, addresses, actual applicant names, things like that that need to be shielded and need to be hidden, are viewable to judges. Again, it might be I'm not biased, I don't know this person, but maybe you know other people in the organization, things like that. Making sure that there's no way for there to be bias in your judging process, is really important. Third thing is that your reviewers, your judges are going from tab to tab, file to file, email to email. Everything is in 8 different places on their computer. Maybe half of it is printed. That is really overwhelming, stressful, and just not a good process for your judges. Everything needs to be in one place just so everything is cohesive, ran together. They don't have to go searching for things that they shouldn't have to search for. It should all just be at their fingertips. Next thing is going to be focusing on the rubrics. A lot of people who are coming into Reviewr, we see that they don't even have rubrics involved. They're not even using any at all, which is a problem in and of itself. But then maybe they are using a rubric and it is just very loosely written. There's not a lot of instruction, not a lot of description of how things should be scored, what should be scored higher, weighting, that kind of thing. And so making sure that everyone is scoring on the same rubric is number one most important, but then making sure that our rubric is, again, intentional, making sure that it aligns with your missions, with your goals. What part of this grant application process is more important to you versus what is not as important to you? Making sure that we're weighting those questions based on things that you want to see in the best outcome of your grant recipients. With that, we have no real-time visibility into the review process. You as an admin or the reviewers themselves, they have no idea where they're at, how many more assignments they have. When you're just sending emails, sending files, it's like, when is this ever going to end? They have no idea. And that kind of comes again with manually assigning those submissions to reviews. And then the last thing is that you're really great, your volunteers that are coming in, putting in their best effort to judge these submissions, they're going to get burnt out. If this process is not intuitive, not a good experience, they're not going to come and continue to do it anymore, no matter how good of a friend they are to you. So making sure that we are keeping them happy, keeping them coming back, and keeping their experience with your grant program positive because their good experience could lead to their friend's good application experience. So again, just kind of making sure that the process for everyone is a really good process. So kind of on the flip side of all those things, but what we want to work towards to again combat those issues. First thing for you as an admin is to find a way to automatically assign those submissions. So whether we're doing assign all, automatic assignments randomly, um, cutting your time on that end of things shorter is really important. Something simple we can do to cut out a lot of your time. Next thing is blind review, redacting data, redacting names, making sure that the judges have no idea who is applying and who they're judging for this grant cycle. Third thing, and one of the most important things, is that split screen interface. Every part of that submission form is going to be on the left side of their screen. Their evaluation score, their rubric is on the right side. Everything is in one place. Their files, their uploads, all of their actual submission data is right there. So a really great experience for those judges, not having to search for everything. Weighting your rubrics and giving descriptive scoring. We're trying really hard to get away from that 1 to 10 scoring because really what is the difference between an 8 and a 9? What's that deciding factor? And are you telling them what that deciding factor is? Additionally, we see that there's less bias and less kind of in between of discrepancy when we use emotional responses. So a 5 would maybe be exceeds expectations and a 1 would be does not meet expectations. So using those emotional responses more to score as opposed to actually letting the judges pick 1 through 5 is really important and something that we've seen a lot of benefit to. You as an admin, but then also your judges get that real-time progress view of how many submissions left they have to review, what they've started, what they haven't started, what's finished. They have really great visibility to see where they're at in their evaluation process. And then with all of those things, you're going to have less of a workload on each individual judge. With that, let's go ahead and show you what that looks like for those judges. All right, so similar to the applicant experience, your judges will create a Reviewr account. Again, this is helpful from year to year because a lot of times those judges are going to come back and continue to score for you. So they can just log in, select this year's event, and they're good to go. This is what we call the judge portal, the evaluators portal. And so here is where they can see all of their submissions that they have been assigned to. If you don't decide to redact any data, they can see their submission name, group name, what evaluation form is being used. They can see if they have started, they can see the score they've given. Really great visibility for those judges. And then clicking into this, we can see over here on the left side, we have that entire submission form. Every part of it is viewable to the judges. They have access to click on those attachments, view them, they'll open up in a file viewer. And then the nice thing about that is that right over on that right side, they can follow along and score as they're looking through that submission. Really great way to just, again, have everything be lined up in an easy, intuitive process for those judges. If you do decide to go the route of numerical scoring, which is fine, be sure to give a description of what these scores mean. Give kind of a benchmark of each score so they can understand what that score truly means and make sure that that aligns with their value based on the submission. They have the attachments tab where if you don't want to use it in submission form file viewer, they can click on that here, take a peek at those submissions. They also have the ability to leave notes, that kind of thing. You can turn on comments so that they can leave comments, questions for the submitter, everything kind of along those lines, which is great. Moving right along, we're in this view results page. And so this is your judge view of seeing how each submission is being scored. So you can see the reviewers, their corresponding score, the average score that each submission is getting, which is really important. And another really great thing about this is you can see any outliers. So you can see, oh, this person scored on average between a 25 and 30, but we have a 12. Why is that? Reach out to the judge, see if it was intentional, ask why, just get more information. Striving towards making it the most fair process possible for those applicants. All right. And then our last mistake that we are going to be covering is your compliance and your impact reporting. So what we're seeing a lot of is you all are putting all this great work into running really good grant programs, but at the end you don't have anything to show for it. When it comes time for your board meeting, when it comes time for your community foundation, and you get to present, there's no real hard evidence of what you did and how that impacted your community, your grantees, which is something that's really important and something that should be important to you as you are running your grant cycle. So some of the issues that we're seeing with this and the lack of it, is that if you do have a grant agreement, you do have a follow-up, anything along those lines, you as an admin are having to follow up and collect things manually. It's hard for the applicant, it's hard for you to keep everything organized, get it in on time, not a great process. Your disbursement documentation is going to be tracked in spreadsheets. It's going to be in docs, PDFs, everywhere but in one place, which is really difficult when everything, again, is not going to be in one place. Third thing is that your reports, whether that's your midterm report, your final report, again, chasing everywhere for it other than having just one centralized place where someone can go in and get their information submitted. Your impact data is going to be, again, scattered, just the same as that. Some of your grantees might miss those reporting milestones. And then what happens? You don't see that impact of those grants that you've given out. With all of that, when you don't have that impact to show, you don't see where their money is going, your funders, your donors, they're not going to continue to donate to your grant application process because they don't see the real impact or the reason why they should be donating to that. So, on the flip side, some of the things that we can do to work on that and provide more of an impact, is that your grant agreements, your disbursement details, everything is going to be collected automatically. That's going to be kind of thinking ahead, forward thinking, have that before they get any further information. Second thing is that their grantee portal, they can have that milestone tracking. They can see when they need to log back in and submit next steps. You can set up those automated reminders to remind them to come in and submit these next steps. Your interim and your final reports are going to be collected through structured forms. And so they'll be able to log in, click submit. Everything is going to be in one place. They'll have access to go back and see that. And it's just going to be consistent. It's not going to be different formats across all grantees. Everything is going to be the same in that kind of regards. And then what you have when you have all that information and you're able to get it done in a timely manner, you have those spreadsheets, those reports that you can take to your board, you can take to your community, you can take to your donors and say, this is where this money has went towards, these are their stories, this is the impact that it has made, and this is why we should keep doing it.